I think we've probably all got a bit of Zoom fatigue as we all sit here on Zoom right now anyway. And then somebody says to me, yay, on Friday night, let's do drinks on Zoom as well. And I'm like, yeah, no, let's not, because I've seen everybody on my screen all week. So we've done a few. I mean, I think it's all about talking to the people within your team, depending on how big your team is, but just trying to talk to your people in the team about actually where they're at. Some people are desperate to see people in a Zoom space because they don't see each other all day. If they are seeing too much of people on Zoom, perhaps try some other things. We do like walking calls between us instead. So rather than any screens, we go old fashioned and we go off camera and we go for a walk and we just talk to each other. That way we use obviously Slack quite a lot. I know the agency collective do. We just set each other little cryptic clues up as we've got a recipe day. So we put a recipe in for Thursday. So our recipe for this week is Portuguese custard tarts, pasta de nata.
Nice. Send them our way as well.
Yeah, we will. Don't you worry. But we're trying to do other things and just get our team to come up with the ideas as well, rather than it just be us saying, do you know what, let's all get together and do Zoom, or let's all get together and do, we can't do some of the things that we normally can, but break them down as well. So rather than perhaps doing drinks every Friday, if that's just getting a bit old hat now, shake it up a bit, adapt, try something new, speak to the team, get other people to come up with the ideas. Nikki, anything extra from you?
Yeah, I guess I'd look at it in two different ways as well. So like you've got the whole keeping it alive during a pandemic, which is slightly different to what's going to happen afterwards. So it might be that you are now going to be remote forever. And I think that will be different entirely, because you'll still be able to then substitute things for, like, you could still go to a pub, even though you don't work together, or you might be able to get kind of company away days. So there's a lot of dispersed companies that work, and then they organise regular face-to-face opportunities. So because we can't do that at the moment, I think you almost have to look at it as a bit of a transition where it just is a bit shit, and kind of accept it and not try and force all of this stuff that just people are very, very aware that it's not possible in their social life and at work. And I think the more you try and replicate these things that you can't actually do, kind of reminds people that actually you can't do it for real. So
forced fun.
Forced fun, which is, everybody hates it. It's usually safe for Christmas, and now it's like every day. And it's just, I think trying to find, look after the really basic things. So like people's well-being, making sure that they're actually feeling okay coming to work, that they're not, you've got all of this added pressure of homeschooling, working at home. You might be living in one space all the time, and they can really get to your head, can't they? And I think then you're just trying to add these like Zoom calls on top, things like that. And actually the more basic needs aren't being met. So I think just really look after the kind of giving people a bit more flexibility of when they're working, where they're working, making sure you're checking in, maybe doing some more like one-on-one check-ins with people to make sure that they're kind of socially okay that way. I know some organisations have organised like a tea room, like a virtual tea room where it's always open. So you could just drop in and drop out whenever you fancy it. So I know for a smaller team that probably wouldn't work, but if you're slightly bigger, you might be able to create like an online space where if you've got 5 minutes, you just drop in and see who else is there. Definitely, I'd look at it and see what do you have to do to survive right now, and then if you're going to be remote longer term, what are the things that you can do to really build those kind of social side of it?
Yeah. I think trying to keep the banter alive is important as well, right? Try and keep, like, you can't just have it always about checking in, like, how are you? Are you okay? Obviously, it's important. How are you? Are you okay? Is of tantamount importance. But also, let's just have some light-hearted banter.
And I just wondered if anyone else is thinking, and we're thinking about what's that going to look like? What's the best kind of format? Has anyone tried that so far, to have a one day or maximum half day team build day? Has anyone got any top tips for that kind of project?
I'm going to hand it over to we do a lot of stuff with our bigger clients where we're bringing people together on a regular basis. But before I answer the question from my side, I'd love to hear from people in the group on the call. Any things that you've been doing to bring your teams together, obviously virtually, because you can't be well. Guessing that you're all relatively either UK based or in some sort of lockdown at the moment, where we can't get people together, or you all are in different places. How are you going about it? What have you been doing? Any volunteers for answers?
Don't be shy.
Nikki, do you want to take this one first up?
Yeah. Well, so there's loads of ways you can do it, and I think it's better to do something rather than nothing in kind of this point in time we're in. And you mentioned kind of sharing the vision for where you're going, a lot more of the business information, all of that kind of stuff is so easy to do virtually. And that doesn't just mean sitting on a Zoom call and listening to loads of like really long slide presentations either. There's some really cool stuff you can do. There's loads of like quite good event platforms popping up, like Hopin on AirMeet and stuff, where you can actually create kind of a online workspace. As far as I'm aware, they're free to use if you're quite a small business, and you can create kind of networking. So you can kind of put people into tables with each other, and they do a bit of like networking. You can switch people around. Then you can do more of a plenary session, share your updates. You can go into breakouts and stuff. So you can very much replicate as far as you can, like a face-to-face event online. I'd say just have some really clear objectives about what you want to get out of it.
Sure.
Because I think, if it's about the socializing, you can do very different things to kind of the upfront, getting people behind your strategy and where you're going as a business. So start with some really clear objectives about what you want to get out of it. And then you can start shaping, what you can do. And there's just so many things that you can do online. Don't wait is what would be my advice.
Okay. Did you say AirMeet is the platform?
AirMeet is one, and
yep.
Hopin, or it might be Hopin, Hopin is another
yep.
one. They're very similar, and they're pretty cool from what I've seen.
Brilliant, thank you.
I'd also say do little chunks as opposed to let's do a whole day virtually, because people's tolerance for that is not as, if you're able to get up and stroll around and then go and get a coffee and whatever, and in a real life situation it's they're always draining, aren't they?
Yeah, big too intense.
And there are things you can do.
Little chunks, I would.
Okay.
If you're, what you can do as well is send people a bit of a party in a box kind of thing, where you can give them a bit of an at-home kit to get through with the online event. So you kind of mix a bit of fun stuff with the online, with the screen, so it's not staring into space. And then just organize the event kind of agenda. Bite-sized chunks is brilliant. You can do maybe an hour each morning for a week, for example, or then you can do some kind of team building activity stuff in between, where you put people into little groups and they can do an activity or a game or a challenge or something. Yeah, and there's loads of, then for the team building element, you can do like live cook-alongs, and you can do cocktail tasting, all of that kind of stuff. You can.
Well, at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Well,
yes.
Yes. Make the day move along a bit easier. Yeah.
No one wants to do Friday night drinks. They want to do
God no.
We've had 3 new people join since lockdown started, and I haven't met one of them at all, like physically met them. And just trying to get people onboarded virtually is obviously a very different experience for people.
I think it can be a better experience, actually. And the reason I say that is because you need to plan it much more carefully than you would if it was face-to-face. I think if you're onboarding someone face-to-face, you take a lot of things for granted, that they're in an office, they can go and find things for themselves, and they can go and see all this stuff, and they can just speak to this person because they know what to do. But when you're doing a remote onboarding, you have to really plan it carefully, and you have to make sure that this person knows where to go for everything. They know, they have to be completely set up, completely connected. When we had our new starters, it was just Jodie and I about 6 months ago, and we were so bad at like filing anything. It was just terrible. A bit of technical term is it was a shit show. And then as someone new's coming in, you have to make sure that you are like organized, and actually this is how we do things. So it forces you to kind of really clarify ways of working, have some really good communication channels in place, put those regular touch points in, and you just have to really be considerate about it. And so the important things is when those people start is that they feel welcome, and that's by knowing where to go, knowing who to speak to, knowing what their job is, some really well planned kind of program for the first 3 or 4 weeks to say, right, and almost they're going to be sat at home on their own in a completely different environment. So the more you can be there, more hands-on than you would be when they settle in. I think, and the people we've joined, I think have really enjoyed it, actually, and it doesn't feel strange that they've never met each other or we've never really spent some time together.
Yeah, it also, the good thing about virtual, as all those things Nikki's talking about, but also this, there's nobody has greater access to anybody else than anyone. Like nobody can spend more time with Nikki than they can with me or somebody else within the team. There's none of that. why it's happening, try and uncover what's happening in that space. Now, in a world when we're all together, you'd perhaps sit face to face with that person and have those more difficult conversations. We can't do that at the moment. So, but just because you can't do that doesn't mean you shouldn't follow the same principles that you follow when you're managing disputes when people are in a room together. So you just need to go and talk to that people, both people, gather the evidence, and also, in my world, I would also suggest those team members need to work through some of their issues as well. So they need to have some constructive conversations around actually giving each other feedback around what's happening and why there's this dispute going on. So just because we work virtually doesn't mean you should ignore disputes. Or I think I saw some questions coming from you, Ellie, as well around managing underperformance for people. Now, when you've got underperforming people in a normal business, if you were seeing them face to face, you sit down and have that conversation with them. Now, yes, it's not as easy to have that conversation across a screen, but you still need to have that conversation. That doesn't go away because we're not seeing each other face to face. And that's just about, making sure you gather your sort of the evidence, the things that you're seeing from this dispute or underperformance or whatever that is, factual based evidence. Be factual with what you're seeing and have those very sensible grown-up conversations to say, this is the evidence, this is what I'm seeing, this is what people are experiencing, and then have those conversations and work through. You might find that people are having a dispute because actually they just don't understand some of the situations that people are in. They're not available at certain times. There's lots of reasons for certain disputes, but my bit would be to, okay, we're virtual, but manage it in the same way you would face to face. Yeah, I mean, you've got to have a face to face conversation on screen instead, but that's how you would manage it in a room. So do the same. Don't just, whatever you do, don't put your head in the sand and let it carry on, because it will only get worse. So
if we start sweeping stuff under the carpet, it's just going to that's when things can implode, can't they?
Don't try and be somebody you're not. Don't try and make it sound all amazing, so somebody will come and join you, because when they come, they get what we would call role shock, and then they arrive and they go, oh, that's not what you said it was. So that doesn't work either. But just be really true to who you are and be really simple about how you communicate that, I think, as well. So, spend some time going, this is what our culture is. This is how we like to work. And then just promoting yourself in that way to people. I think just being true to you. Don't try and make up stuff that makes you sound sort of super sexy and super. If you're not, if you are super sexy, great, go for it. And there'll be some people who want to come and work for a company like that, and there are others who won't. I think it's a really interesting market from a recruitment perspective from our side. Interestingly, that because there are, I think we go from one extreme to the other. Some people are so busy, they've got so much work, they need more people, and other people are they've either got lots of people or and work is more difficult to get work in certain industries depending on what you're in. My husband works in sort of travel and rail, so you can imagine what that's like at the moment. So I think it's quite different. So that there are people out there at the moment from a recruitment perspective, just finding the right person to come and join your team. And that's why the clearer you can be about who you are as a business and what you're trying to achieve, the more likely you're going to find somebody to match. Nikki?
No, I think it's just spending the time to actually work out what you offer people, and people very quickly jump to kind of the visible stuff, and it's particularly agencies where we are very much we all used to work in a studio, and it was really cool because we were always together and it was really sociable, we had all this stuff to do. Agencies have kind of lost their soul momentarily because they can't sing and shout about that at the moment. Whether or not that's permanent or temporary now, who knows, but I think it's just having there's this really cool triangle. I think Mercer did it. I don't have it to hand, but it just shows you how to kind of work through how you describe your proposition as in from an employee point of view. And it shows that what is it that everybody offers. So, that's no longer a benefit because it's just basic. Then it's the bit that's like what sets you apart. And then at the top, it's the what's going to really connect with someone that's right for you. So you kind of, if you want to know what differentiates you, kind of go to the top. And it's more than beers and ping pong tables, but that's no longer new, and it's no longer anything that one person offers and another person doesn't. So you kind of need to go a bit deeper and say, what is it? What is the kind of purpose of our business, and what is it that kind of connects with you?